Right now, on to the point. Wildfires raging across the state, with more than 100,000 acres burned and dozens injured. How federal officials are now stepping in. Plus, remembering 9/11. A former firefighter reflects on the day that changed America.
The devastation was significant. Everything was larger than life.
And later, parole denied for a convicted high school shooter. Tonight, how a former student is reacting and what comes next. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell, and we start tonight tracking several dangerous wildfires, prompting evacuations and even a rare weather alert. At this hour, CAL FIRE reports more than a dozen fires actively burning in the state. 3 of them are in Southern California, burning less than 100 miles from one another. Just moments ago, Governor Gavin Newsom announcing a state of emergency in Los Angeles and San Bernardino counties in response to these fires. And it comes as several injuries have been reported and multiple structures have been destroyed. Melissa Don joins us from Wrightwood with the details.
There is a massive response from firefighters. You can see them out here in the distance working in these tough terrains in this mountain community to protect nearby homes. Thousands of Southern California residents forced to evacuate their homes as fast-spreading wildfires burn across 4 different counties.
There's a possibility we might lose everything there. But our family's safe, so hopefully everyone gets out and no one gets hurt.
The bridge fire exploding in size in a matter of hours. More than 47,000 acres burned.
We really didn't even have time to think. It was just throw everything in the car and go. And that was pretty scary.
In the mountain community of Wrightwood, emergency crews going door to door, loading people without vehicles into ambulances and patrol cars to take them to safety.
The fire was coming from the west side so quickly that our only focus was life safety.
The airport fire burning in Trabuco Canyon has already charred more than 22,000 acres across Orange and Riverside counties. The flames captured in this dramatic time-lapse footage from UC San Diego. Homes near Lake Elsinore destroyed.
My girlfriend lost her home and I had to call her and tell her that she's losing her home. I could see it on fire.
Firefighters are working in tough conditions here in this mountain community, setting up a perimeter to try to protect nearby homes. In San Bernardino County, the line fire continues to burn through the rough mountain terrain. Already more than 34,000 acres have burned, the flames only about 14% contained. Authorities say they have a suspect in custody who they believe started the line fire on September 5th. 34-year-old Norcal resident Justin Wayne Halstenberg being held on an $80,000 bond.
And that was Melissa Don reporting. With firefighting resources stretched across the state, Governor Newsom has called in the National Guard and aircraft to help fight these flames. He's also secured federal support from FEMA. And just across state lines, the Davis fire is burning near Reno. It started Saturday in the area of Davis Creek Regional Park, prompting evacuation orders as it threatened homes. It's now burned more than 5,000 acres and is at 37% containment. The fire has also prompted a rare weather alert called PDS. So I want to go ahead and bring in Chief Meteorologist Monica Wood. She's joining us now because you've actually been talking about this alert since yesterday. So can you kind of explain how things are shaping up in that area?
Basically, red flag warning conditions. Those are gusty, dry winds. And then the particularly dangerous situation that PDS is because we could see explosive fire growth. Now, I've been following the impacts of this Davis fire and the weather conditions that surround it. The good thing there is that firefighters have been able to keep containment at 31%. We'll continue to track that for tonight since that PDS continues until 8 o'clock this evening. You can see a little bit closer perspective here. Here is the perimeter of the Davis fire, now over 5,600 acres. But again, at least containment is holding at about 31%. The winds have been problematic because they've really been coming in and forcing the fire to push off to the east there. And with that, it can be very erratic. Wind gusts over 40 miles per hour around that fire. Now, they've been a little lighter throughout the valley, but still, anytime you have winds and a fire, that's never a good combination. We're already starting to see a bit of a wind shift out of the northwest. That's going to drive up temperatures slightly. And those gusty winds posing another risk of some slightly higher fire danger into tomorrow.
All right, Monica, thank you. Governors from Arizona and Nevada are weighing in on the gas tax fight and the special session here in California. They sent a letter urging Governor Gavin Newsom to reevaluate proposed legislation that could change how California's refineries are regulated. It comes after a report from the California Energy Commission says the bill may create artificial shortages in downstream markets and increase average prices, especially in Arizona and Nevada. Newsom recently called upon the California Assembly to hold a special session to address gas prices and oil. Today, Assembly Republicans introduced a series of bills aimed at bringing down gas prices, and the package of 7 bills includes measures to suspend the gas tax without impacting transportation projects, increase transparency on price setting, and curb overregulation. Assembly members are scheduled to start committee hearings next week. In other news, a Stockton couple accused of killing their 2-year-old daughter faced a judge for the first time today. Police were first called to the apartment on West Oak Street in downtown Stockton just after 3 a.m. on Monday. Prosecutors say one of the 2-year-old, Jocelyn Ornella's parents, called police to check on her. The toddler was taken to the hospital where she died. Her parents, Jessica Chavez and Gregorio Ornelas, are facing charges of child abuse causing bodily injury, child abuse resulting in death, torture, and second-degree murder.
This is a 2-year-old child who had no one to fight for her, and we're still waiting on the autopsy results, but it's apparently clear this child starved. So a case like this, I think, affects everyone in the county.
Jessica was seen crying. Her husband, on the other hand, was mostly emotionless during the brief court appearance. Neighbors tell us that they were not aware the couple had a daughter. The two will be back in court on September 26th. Today marks 23 years since the September 11th terror attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City. Terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes and killed nearly 3,000 people. Most Americans have a vivid memory of where they were or what they were doing on the day that America was attacked, especially the first responders who got the call to head to New York, like former Sacramento Metro Fire Department Chief Rick Martinez. 23 years later, he says that there are moments he will never forget. New York City, September 11th, 2001. In California, firefighter Rick Martinez was still asleep when he heard his pager.
I remember reading it 3 times. I said, this is somebody, whoever entered it got it wrong. It said, 2 planes have struck both towers of the World Trade Center, called the National Watch Center.
American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. 17 minutes later, another plane hit the South Tower. At the time, Martinez was the chief of the Metro Fire Department and part of FEMA's Urban Search and Rescue team.
I called the National Watch Center, and the person I talked to was someone I knew. He just said, turn on the television.
He knew he would be heading to New York.
The whole building has collapsed.
A huge explosion! Standing there in front of the World Trade Center, and the devastation was significant. Everything was larger than life.
Search and rescue. Their mission was clear, but the debris and smoke clouded their long days looking for survivors.
The sun was pretty much shrouded in this orange hue. The debris pile was significant. I mean, it was 10 stories tall of just wrecked fire engines.
The wreckage telling a story Martinez would never find answers to.
I think the thing that really impacted me the most were the twisted fire apparatus. Lots of fire engines and fire trucks, ambulance command cars that were just twisted and damaged. And, you know, because that's kind of our base that we operate as firefighters. You think about the people that were riding on them.
A thought he couldn't escape even in the few moments he had alone.
And it isn't really until you get some rest and a decent meal, a lot of it sinks in. I mean, it was just emotionally taxing.
For 2 weeks, Martinez and his team of first responders combed through the debris.
We did not find any live victims, which leaves you with a sense of failure in some respects. There definitely was an emotional feel. We had lots of firefighters, lots of New York firefighters that were there looking for their friends, lots of relatives.
Nearly 3,000 lives were lost in the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil.
One of the things that came out of 9/11 is there was a great deal of unity, civility, and support. I think that's really important not to lose sight of.
Over the last 30 years, Martinez has continued to dedicate his life and experience to help injured firefighters and rebuild communities that have gone through disasters, most recently assisting with search and rescue efforts in Maui.
I was born and raised in Sacramento. I'm very proud of that. When I've gone on deployments, I like to think that not only am I representing Sacramento, but Sacramento is lending a hand to those communities in need.
Today, hundreds gathered at Ground Zero in New York, where the Twin Towers once stood. Each year, families observe 6 moments of silence, hear the reading of the names, and fulfill a promise to never forget. Still ahead on To the Point, parole denied. A man accused of a high school shooting will remain behind bars. How a former student is responding. Plus, why male officials are sounding the alarm ahead of the November elections. Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods with our forecast. I'm happy to say that I can open my windows at night.
I know.
And let the cool air in finally. It's nice to give your AC a break.
Yeah, I really kind of felt like the house needed an airing out.
Yes, exactly.
It is at the end of
weather
summer.
in there.
Oh, wow. It was one of those mornings, once again, beautiful for the morning. Now, it did warm up this afternoon into the 80s, so one of those days, open up the windows in the morning, kind of close them during the mid-morning hours. 70s and 80s for the foothills and near 70 up top for the Sierra. Breezy and warmer tomorrow, just by a couple of degrees, but we start to pick up those northwest winds. That's going to elevate that fire danger. It's going to bring our temperatures closer to average. It is also going to briefly elevate the fire danger before we start talking about cooler weather as well as the chances for rain and snow. Let's take a look at those winds. For tonight, they start to back off slightly, but also shift direction. So by tomorrow morning, we're looking at more of an offshore wind and a bit of a north component to that as well. These will be dry and warming winds. That will help to bump up those temperatures slightly. And due to the duration of those winds, we don't have a red flag warning issued yet. We'll be tracking that. Here's a look at that weekend forecast. Friday and Saturday near 90 and average. And then cooler weather develops on Sunday ahead of the weather system that will bring us a chance for showers to start off next week and cooler weather as well. Another one right behind it keeps showers in the forecast into our midweek outlook. So we've got some unsettled weather to track in our 10-day forecast. As we look at the regional outlook, highs will warm into the 70s Friday and Saturday for the mountains. Chance of showers developing on Monday. Same for the foothills. We'll see dry weather through the weekend. Chance of showers early next week. A mix of sun and clouds for the coast with highs in the 60s and 70s. With our 3-day forecast showing the dry and warmer weather before the showers arrive heading into early next week.
All right, still ahead after the break. 23 years after a high school shooting, the convicted shooter denied parole. What this means for the case. Plus, after meeting for the first time on the debate stage, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris meeting again today, the latest for the race for the White House. Welcome back. 23 years after the Santana High School shooting, the convicted shooter, Andy Williams, will not be granted parole. 2 people were killed and 13 others were hurt back in March of 2001. Marcella Lee from our sister station in San Diego spoke with his attorney and with a former student about what this decision means.
It was a pretty intense ordeal. I was grateful it was done virtually, though, so that we weren't all sitting together and facing Andy, in person. But
Kristen Dare was a student at Santana High School when Andy Williams opened fire in March 2001. She was one of 22 victims who spoke virtually before the parole board, sharing how the shooting has traumatized them for life.
It's emotionally draining, there was a lot of everyone bringing back, the feelings that really hit us when the time of the event occurred, and then reliving it all. And I think reliving it so soon, I don't think a lot of us were expecting that to happen.
Williams should have been 65 years old before being eligible for parole. The teen was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison for murdering 14-year-old Brian Zucker and 17-year-old Randy Gordon and injuring 13 others. But a change in state law surrounding youth offenders gave Williams this chance at early release.
Camera was on for the entirety of the hearing, and we saw him get emotional throughout.
But she doesn't feel Williams was sincere.
It seemed like a lot of the victims had a similar opinion that he wasn't quite remorseful at the end of the day, and that they were really getting these apologies that maybe they felt were kind of boilerplated, just almost rehearsed versus, having gone 20 some odd years and never having heard from him before.
Williams' attorney, Laura Shepard, told me why Williams hasn't been able to apologize before now.
A number of people expressed that either they just received an apology letter and they wonder why it wasn't sooner, or they still haven't received an apology letter. And what they don't know is that it was illegal. It is illegal for us to reach out, for him to say or write anything to them directly. He sobbed his way through most of the victims' statements.
Shepard believes Williams is remorseful and hopes that one day he will get a chance at freedom.
Hopefully, what we accomplished today was the first step in restorative justice, right? Was for some of these folks to hear for the first time that he is sorry. And maybe they still can't believe it, but at least they heard it. And they've never had the chance to hear it before. He can't ever take back what he did, but he can show them he's sorry.
Although the Board of Commissioners rejected Williams' request for parole, he'll have another chance to make his case in 3 years. He also has the option to petition for an earlier hearing. 3 former Memphis police officers went on trial in federal court today on charges stemming from the January 2023 beating death of Tyre Nichols. The former officers are accused of federal civil rights violations. During opening statements, the prosecution stated that the officers were punishing Nichols for fleeing a traffic stop. Attorneys for 2 of the former officers argue that Nichols drove 2 miles after officers indicated to him to pull over and did not comply with orders. The trial could take several weeks, and the 3 officers are being tried as co-defendants, but they will all receive different sentences. Tonight, in the race for the White House, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris facing off last night in a historic presidential debate. It's still unclear whether their debate performances will move the needle in this election. ABC M. Nguyen has the latest from Washington.
Today, in a rare public appearance together, President Biden, alongside both presidential candidates, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, all gathering in New York to commemorate the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The 2 nominees meeting for the first time just 1 day before, walking onto the debate stage. In a power move, Harris initiating a handshake.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Harris set out to hold Trump accountable for his record, blaming him for the new abortion restrictions across the country, saying what he is putting women through is unconscionable.
Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
The former president refusing to commit to veto a national abortion ban.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't.
Trump hitting Harris on immigration.
They're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done.
What we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
On the economy, Harris touted a plan for tax breaks for small businesses and a first-time homebuyer credit for down payments. Trump had won the coin toss and chose to give the closing statement.
They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
Both presidential candidates will be right back out on the campaign trail. Tomorrow, Harris will be heading to North Carolina and Trump will be in Arizona. Meanwhile, there's new concerns tonight about whether our mail system could cause issues during this November election. Today, state and local election officials from across the country sent a letter to the head of the U.S. Postal Service warning that the nation's mail delivery system could disenfranchise voters in the upcoming election. Officials say over the past year, some mailed ballots that were postmarked on time were received by local election offices days after the deadline to be counted. They also noted that properly addressed election mail was being returned to them as undeliverable. The letter asked the Postal Service to take immediate and tangible action to address the issue. The Postal Service did not immediately respond to the letter. After the break, how a local cafe is changing lives for those with disabilities. A Sacramento cafe is changing lives and removing barriers for people with disabilities. Purple Tree Cafe, located in the UC Davis Mind Institute in Sacramento, employs people with neurodevelopmental challenges. The nonprofit was established in 2018 and started out as a stall at the Davis Farmers Market. The space inside the Mind Institute is their first brick and mortar store. Very, very cool. As always, thank you so much for watching and for inviting us into your home. Remember, if you have something that you think we should be looking into, make sure to reach out to me and the team. And strangers are people we just haven't gotten the chance to meet yet. So take the time to get to know someone. And for more stories, make sure you follow our ABC 10 Plus app. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.